Hi everyone, and welcome to my porch and my little, we'll call it a Melinda's TED Talk. I'm hopeful that it's not going to be super loud in the background because I actually have really great lighting right now, and I feel really called to talk about this topic, which is freedom. And I see a lot out there online with people, with marketing from coaches, with comparison, with social media, and a lot of depression, a lot of mind loops, a lot of people not really being able to see the big picture because they're so distracted by all the crap and the clutter. And I've done a lot of work around the topic of freedom over the years, and it just really hit me today to share some of this with you from the lens of someone who has done a lot in their life, and I'm 53, and I've really had a full circle kind of come to Jesus moment about freedom in the last few years. And whenever I see now coaches promoting some type of freedom lifestyle, if you buy their programs online, it honestly gives me anxiety. And anxiety is a tool that you should use, just like triggers, to look at something and see, is it something you need to fix? Is it something you need to speak up about? It's a tool. Just like when people go, oh, I have the chills, it's normally like a good sign from the divine or from your angels that, they agree with something you said, or you're on the right path. All of these feelings that we get in our body naturally are tools from the universe. So learn to embrace them. That's a huge tip for you. So whenever I see coaches promote some type of freedom lifestyle or a 4-minute work week type vibe, which we'll get to in a second, it just gives me anxiety because it's so not real. And bigger than that is, what is freedom? What is freedom? So again, I've had such a journey about freedom over the years, and I wanted to deconstruct that, which I did, and then share it with you so you can go on your own journey of deconstructing freedom and get to a place of peace. And peace is abundance. Abundance literally is that you have what you need when you need it. It does not mean that you're all a multimillionaire with 50 boats and 20 million houses and handbags up the yang. It literally just means you have what you need when you need it. So getting back to a place of peace in terms of abundance is everything. And then stuff will actually start to manifest for you. Instead of pushing and resisting and living in lack based on everything else you're seeing or reading about or listening to. It's quite magical how it works. It actually kind of works in reverse if you really do a deep dive about it. So where do I begin? I'm going to begin with Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week. And it's so funny because I've never read the book. Why? Because I just don't believe that that's a thing. And I don't need any tips from someone on how to live my life or be more organized or be a harder worker or more productive. I'm pretty damn good at that. I really am. Innately pretty damn good. I'm a human design generator. I just was born this way. So I don't need his book. But anyhow, I have all respect for Tim Ferriss. I've listened to his podcast before. I don't follow him. It's all good. My point is actually bigger than Tim Ferriss. His book title, which most people don't know, was actually based on marketing and focus groups. It's not like Tim just magically had it come to him. Oh no, it was constructed for marketing purposes. So years ago, I heard him on a podcast say that basically, and I'm putting this in my own words years later, my own context, that if he had to do it all over again, he might not pick that title. And the context of the discussion in the podcast was about is it really realistic to think you can have, this type of work-life balance? And basically that's when he was like, I really don't know if I'd pick that title again. So there you go. So I feel that since then, and then with the onslaught of so many people going online and marketing online, which really started, if you do a little bit of history work on this, it started back in the recession. So in 2009, when my husband Ryan and I lost our jobs at the same time and moved to the Florida Keys and started completely over, a lot of people that lost their jobs that were the generation younger than us. So my husband and I are Gen Xers, and the generation below us is millennials. So a lot of those millennials went online and started online businesses. You had the people like the Amy Porterfields, the Jasmine Stars, the Jenna Kuchers, like a lot of people started, podcasts, John Lee Dumas, like all these people, right, that are pretty big names out there in the online coaching space. Even if you haven't heard them, I mean, there's so many more I could list forever, but those are just some ones that I know I followed early on when I was getting into online coaching, kind of back in like 2018. So I was such a late adapter, right? So, but my husband and I in 2009, when everyone else was going online, we moved to the Keys and actually started like tangible businesses, right? So we eventually started Good Karma Sport Fishing in 2012, and I wasn't on the road rep. So I literally knocked on doors selling things to boutiques and resorts and museums and garden centers, and I had actual product to sell, and I sold it to boutiques and stores and retailers all across Florida. So we weren't really like online in that world. But then what ended up happening is a marketing narrative as those coaches and people selling things online started to become really successful. They started the narrative that this was freedom, right? It didn't necessarily always meant that they didn't work hard, because we certainly know that they did work very hard, but it just became the narrative to sell the product was about freedom. And then people started more and more being online, and all of it grew, right? All of the platforms grew and became more popular, and pretty much it's hard to find someone who's not online anymore, and God bless them if they're not, like, kind of jealous. So, but YouTube, picked up, and all these things like really picked up. And so became a narrative that you're going to have this freedom and this lifestyle if you buy their course, if you buy their program. And then people started buying into that. So what does that end up doing? It feeds the beast. It just becomes a cycle. So they're making more money and they're sharing about that, and you're buying into that, and it becomes more and more of a cycle. So fast forward to 2018 was when I decided to finally jump into the coaching world. And it's something I had always wanted to do, was to be a coach, a speaker, and a writer. And I didn't do it right away because, quite frankly, I wanted to have actual business experience. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. So I have 16 years in the corporate world with very large retailers like Victoria's Secret, Saks Fifth Avenue, Target. And then I actually wanted to have entrepreneurial experience before becoming a business coach and consultant. So hence, I was in sales for 12 years, used that money to help my husband and I build Good Karma Sport Fishing. So I actually have experience in sales in the corporate world, and also now as an entrepreneur, which we still have our business going on almost 13 years, Good Karma Sport Fishing and coaching. So I didn't jump online right away. I wasn't online at all until 2019. You can actually go in my Instagram and go all the way back, and you'll see my very first post in April of 2019, which was when I officially launched my coaching business. So what does that mean? That means that I started getting sucked into the web myself. In 2018, I started listening to like Grant Cardone. That's how I found like Gary Vee, and then I found John Lee Dumas, and I found podcasting, and I found all these people, right? just opened up a whole new world, which I'm really grateful for. No offense to any of them. But it just really opened my eyes to what was going on. And I got sucked into the whole like freedom lifestyle. And when my husband and I moved here in 2009, to be brutally honest, I didn't like it. I didn't like living in the Keys. I loved the Keys for the concept of we're on the water, the weather's beautiful, but the demographic of the people, not my background. And quite frankly, driving up the one road, US 1, is not so pretty. There's billboards, not every house is great. Living down here is extremely expensive. The houses are, like you can get much more for your money up north. And everyone knows that. But the weather's great, right? And my husband lives his dream, and I'm very happy and proud of him, and I love doing it too. So it's all good. But it took some work to get there. So what ended up happening was I really started to doubt myself. I really started to get sucked into all of their marketing narratives about what is freedom. And does freedom mean that I should have like another house somewhere? Does freedom mean that I should travel more? And I started to get caught up in this whole cycle of this whole freedom thing. Instead of just staying focused on myself and my husband and I and our business, it was a huge distraction. And it took some time to work through that. And honestly, I would say it was in October of 2021 that I realized that I was actually literally hating where we lived, our street. I was pissed off. I was bitter. I was mad that we had 3 dogs and they were hindering our freedom to travel. Like it was like anything I could possibly put blame on about not having freedom, like that was on the line, I was hating on it. And it was completely ridiculous because when I started to look back at my life, I realized like I've had the most amazing life, and I still have an amazing life. And that's what I needed to come to terms with and really appreciate. I do live here. It's beautiful. Not everything's beautiful about it, but not everything's beautiful about everywhere we live, right? So I came to start to appreciate the really good things about living here. The weather, the birds, the trees. We get to see green all year round. My husband does get to go fishing whenever he wants, and so do I if I wanted to. If we're not running a charter, I just don't always like to. I just like to help him. That's really it. But anyhow. And I started to really deconstruct, like, what is it about freedom that people are getting sucked into that was also sucking me into it? I'm like, I love my husband. I'm so grateful for him. That's a whole other journey of how I manifested my husband, which I've definitely podcasted about before and done YouTube videos about. So it wasn't anything about him. Yes, we had 3 dogs, but I love our 3 dogs. Now we have 1, 2 passed away within the last year. Got over where we lived. We are super lucky. We own our boat. We don't have to deal with investors. We were super lucky. For 4 years, we had a private client that had a 39-foot boat with 3 engines, and he picked up the tab for everything, so we got to experience what that was like. And it's a lot of work and it's very pricey, so we're glad that that was his boat and not ours at the time. Maybe someday that'll change. Not worrying about it right now. We drive the cars we want to drive. I don't need another handbag. I have closets full of handbags. They're designer handbags in their sleeper bags. I don't need another handbag. So when someone shows me their fancy handbag online, that's nice. That's great. I have a bunch of them. Don't need them. Don't really need jewelry. I don't even have any jewelry on today but my wedding rings. So what was freedom? What was freedom? I've traveled all over. I like to travel, but my husband and I, we're not big travel nuts. I'd like to see my family a little bit more. We'd like to see my husband's family a little bit more. That would be great. But besides that, it's not even a travel thing. And we were really lucky for so many years that we were able to use his aunt and uncle's condo in Fort Myers before they sold it. And I said to my husband, Ryan, this past May, I said, sometimes I actually really kind of miss that condo. And I definitely know that we were really lucky that we were able to use it pretty much, for, we've been here almost 15 years. Well, 15 years this month. So we were able to use it until like about a year or so ago. And my husband goes, I really don't miss it. And I was like, you don't miss it? And he's like, no, I really just don't like packing up my stuff and schlepping somewhere else and coming back and having to unpack the car. And I was like, who knew? He didn't even really miss the freedom of having a place in another part of Florida that we could escape to. He didn't even like miss that. So that was like an eye-opening conversation that day, let me tell you. But anyhow, so what is freedom, right? When you take out all the 3D things that are talked about on the internet, that we're comparing ourselves to, that we're judging ourselves, that we're buying someone's online course that's promoting freedom because they showed a picture of them traveling to Greece or something, or their new handbag. Is that really what freedom is? It's actually not. Everything is about freedom of the mind. Freedom of the mind is everything. And freedom of the mind is actually something that you can't really put a price tag on. And I understand this personally because I used to be a chronic overthinker. Like if you would have like opened the dictionary to overthinker, like, And by overthinker, I don't mean, and this is, I see every time I post about overthinking, it's always taken to this context and it just blows my mind. But overthinking does not mean, in the context that I'm referring it to, that I'm overthinking if I should work on a blog today, or if I should work on our websites today, or if I should work on repurposing content today, and then I don't do anything. That is most commonly the context that people refer to on social media in terms of overthinking. Or again, if I post about overthinking, like those are the responses I'll get in the comments, and that's not what I'm referring to at all. I'm referring to those nasty fucking mind loops that you just can't escape. You just literally cannot escape it. You're like, please stop, please stop. That overthinking is crushing. It gives you anxiety, it is painful, and quite frankly, ruins things. And I know this personally because in July of 2017, I was on vacation in Mexico with my husband Ryan, and I was struggling with my mother, who, and I say this with, I don't want anyone to comment on this because it's no one's business, and I'm completely at peace with all of this, and I send her so much love. I have no bad feelings. I'm so grateful for my life. But I was struggling with the fact that I needed to cut those ties and end the relationship. And she basically ruined my vacation. And she wasn't on it. So again, this is not about her. I don't want any comments, any judgments, nothing. It's just an example of overthinking. When something is wrong in your life that needs to be fixed, again, back to anxiety, that you have to take some type of action on, and it could be painful, it could be disruptive, it could be like, who would have ever thought that I would cut ties with my mother? Like, never, ever in a million years would have ever thought that that would have been my life's path and my life's journey. And I'm so glad I did. I'm at peace with it 100%. Anytime I've ever had like a reading, I can always tell when it's a good psychic because they always bring it up. They're like, you did the right thing. And I'm like, I know I did. But again, this is for no one to comment at all. And I'm completely at peace, and I send so much love and everything, and I'm super grateful. I've really come to realize that I'm super grateful for something that she gifted me, which is her tone. And I actually think that this will probably be a signature part of my business and my future speaking career is talking about tone and frequency. And I have so much to say on this, but anyhow. But my point is chronic overthinking and not having freedom of your mind to just be at peace is everything. And that is priceless. And that's the work I do with people, is really help them get clarity and understanding this and know they're not alone. Like, you're not a bad person because you have these mind loops about different things. And they can appear in so many different ways. We all have different journeys in our lives and different shadows we have to look at and different layers that we need to peel back based on whatever, right? And all of it is a journey. So give yourself some grace in the process, but that is freedom. Freedom is not that you had enough money to buy a handbag, unless the mind loop is about the money, which goes to some other deep-seated thing. It's not technically the actual 3D thing. It's not technically the money. It's not technically the object. It's the freedom that it will bring you in your mind. So I really hope that this helps some of you out there that may be sucked into, all of these programs and courses, because you're just like continuing to spend money and it may likely not be necessary. I have taken courses and everything from so many people, just like so many coaches out there, and I've learned so much, which has always the good and the bad is both learnings, and I just say good and bad like loosely for context. But it's really important to understand that, right? So if you're following someone to make money to give a certain type of lifestyle and you think that's the freedom, do a deeper dive on what that really looks like to you. And is it really the 3D thing, or is there something else in your mind that needs to be freed up so you feel better and more at peace? So let me know in the comments if this landed for you. And Ryan and I are going to start podcasting together on my YouTube channel. We have a list of content ideas, and I just really appreciate when I hear from people. I hear from people like all the time now, in so many different ways. People message me, people at the marina, all different places that people listen to my podcast. I have 5.5 years worth of content. It's crazy. So I always encourage people to fill their boots and pick up on some of the codes, because I'm not a fluffy podcaster. I'm definitely contrarian, so I'm not for everyone. So I always really give whoever listens to my content a big props, because you get the frequency. Thanks for listening. Bye.